everyone, welcome to the startup podcast of MedDwiseCircle, and I'm Kalaiarasi Sivaji, founder of Thremear, where we are building the early screening solutions for hormone imbalance issues. Today's conversation is very special to me because I'm not just speaking to a founder, I'm speaking to someone who has been one of my inspirations. So I'm really excited to welcome Ms. Geethanjali Radhakrishnan, founder of Adiuvo Diagnostics, a company working on optics, AI, and non-invasive diagnostics. Geethanjali, so good to have you here. Welcome to this podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks to MedDwise and of course my friend from college, as well as I'm very happy to see that she has her own company working on a very important problem. Uh, Nice to be on this. Thanks, Kalai.
Yeah. So I want to start not with Adiuvo, but with you. Before all this, who is Geethanjali? What shaped you to think and grow into a startup founder?
Okay. Very deep question. Maybe I'll try to keep it true to why I founded the company. So I did bioengineering back in 2007 to 11. So there were very less awareness about what bioengineers really do and how they can contribute to the medtech or the healthcare community in India. And there were very little opportunities present post BTech, right? The only option that was available for anybody was to do either a PhD or write a GATE exam or a CSIR exam and then join MSc or further studies into this. And there were very little options if you even have to get into a reputable company. You would only join as a very entry level role, and that's exactly what pushed me into entrepreneurship journey. Little did I know it is a very tough journey, especially in the healthcare space. But I wanted to take it as a challenge that, even with a BTech background, you can effectively contribute to the healthcare community in India, where you can build devices from India made for the globe. Of course, keeping in mind the rigor at which the technology needs to be established and the quality which is needed, especially in healthcare. So that is what made me to start the company. Uh, and healthcare is a very serious role. We cannot take shortcuts. So yeah, it's been 10 years into the company and I've learned a lot during this process. But to put in simple terms, it's just that I wanted to make a change in bioengineering. And that's why I started the company.
So that's really interesting because many founders say that their work connect to something past, maybe the family members effort, or I have met several founders, medtech founders, who has been taken some of their past incidents as the inspiration to start, or especially into the medtech startup. So that's a really different answer that I was hearing today. So observing from a problem point of view, as you are dealing one of the major issues right now, many of the countries facing, especially India is facing. What pushed you to take that? That as an issue to work on your startup.
Sure. Great question. So one thing I wanted to start with was BIRAC, which is by Department of Biotechnology. They do support a lot of young minds who have an innovation DNA in them, and they wanted to do something in medical devices or anything in healthcare. So when I had applied for this grant, um, the initial time when I submitted, it was rejected. And then I understood a problem statement has to come from a clinician directly who is working in the healthcare community. And that's how I got introduced to Dr. Ayush Gupta from Pune. He's a dermatologist by background. So I did a immersion program after knowing my first round, first submission with BIRAC did not go through successfully. And sitting in AC rooms is not the right way to understand the need, what a doctor wants, what a community wants, what a patient is in India is facing. So that was a very, very eye-opening, journey for me with Dr. Ayush Gupta. He receives 200 patients per day. They all come from various issues, starting from skin and soft tissue infections on the skin to dermatology related fungal infections. And he also receives a subset of patients who are, incurring burns or diabetic foot also. So then, when I started digging more, these patients come to him at a very late stage where, the key decisions a doctor can take would be either resulting in an amputation, or it would end up in prescribing medications and, advanced therapeutic solutions which a patient cannot afford. And that particular hospital caters to poor farmers coming from a distant village. And even a simple 300 rupees dressing, to take care of their wound is not something that they can afford. So that's what made me into understanding the problem much more deeper, where if there is a solution that anybody even in a remote location can use to understand whether their wound is infected or not, because bacteria and fungus is everywhere, and you need to understand, you cannot see it with your naked eye. What is the most easiest solution where anybody can use it to understand there is infection or not? And that's what triggered me into, starting and working on this particular problem solution. And India is a diabetic population, and 50% of them ends up, 50% of the population have diabetes. In that, 25% would develop a diabetic foot also. So that's my major market segment. And infection is one of the major reasons for amputation. So this is what I understood in the market. And even a simple farmer, for the wound to get closed, they need to spend anywhere between 1.5 lakhs to 2 lakhs till the closure. So all these metrics, understanding where a solution like what I'm developing can add value, at the same time, how can doctors see value in the device and also provide value to the patient? Now, all these are the different need assessments that I did before working on this portable handheld tool. So basically, what we have developed is very simple as your DSLR camera. You point and shoot on a wound patient. The wounds can be post-surgical wound. It can be a diabetic foot ulcer wound. It can be burns or traumatic incidences. And it tells you where bacteria is and also the type of bacteria. And you can use this on an entire 150 visits when a patient comes to, visit the doctor. You don't need a culture test. You don't need to do any advanced modalities for continuous monitoring of patients. So one small disclaimer, we don't replace the culture test. It's still the gold standard. But where we add value is patients come for all the 150 visits. How are you going to tell whether the infection is reducing? Is what the doctor doing, adding value to the patient? Is the patient's wound closing effectively or not? And that is where the device, is an excellent tool or a guidance to the doctors.
So, from my understanding, you are working on optics and AI and biology, which is not at revival. And how did you even bring in all these pieces together? I remember you start this thing in 2015, where AI was not much of into the field.
Sure.
So, how did you build the things?
Sure. So why we chose optics was again a very strategic decision, again based on the need assessment. So what is the best way you can bring in non-invasive diagnostics? It's through optics, because you shine a light, and we understood that bacteria has certain properties where they naturally emit a fluorescence, and this technology is called autofluorescence imaging. So that's why we wanted to do optics. After which we did a multi-centric trial on close to 600 patients. We took patients from Gujarat, patients from Tamil Nadu, we took patients from the Northeast, and some from the Western and the Eastern part as well. And we realized that India is a very diverse population. You have different skin color, you have different, food habits, their ethnicity is different. And we understood when you use to shine light on such varied skin color and tones and backgrounds, the noise which is contributed by this wound is very different. So the AI was not something because it was a cool term, but rather to actually make the technology work on such a varied community. And that was the decision we took, I think, 3 or 4 years after our multicentric trial, when we want to improve the accuracy. And then, of course, AI started catching up everywhere in the field. But this was one of the major reason we started. Not all solutions need AI in it, but for our particular case, we needed that to improve the accuracy. And of course, if we build for the Indian community, it can work anywhere, be it US or Africa, be it European community. We have seen the solution is very excellent. It works on any kind of community. So yeah, that was the decision behind using AI.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that's great. So, at some point, every founder faced this reality check. Like, what was harder for you? Whether shifting this idea into a portable machinery, or building the technology, or convincing others that this technology really works, or it exists or something. Because in the initial days, when you try to convince, while you are developing, it feels very harder. As a founder, I do. Keep myself ask the similar questions, like we are building in a some way, and we are have to convince that this technology works, and we are convincing the people around us, as well as the committee who is into the granting, or the public also. It is very tough. How you cross that stage?
Yeah. So to be very frank, it's still a challenge for me, because as and when you meet new customers, new doctors, new stakeholders, especially when you're building something novel, unique, not something that existed before, you would be always, there would be a sense of doubt from the customer side or your stakeholders, as you are mentioning. This is very common, which means you're actually innovative and doing something really transformational. And part of the reason is health in medical devices or in healthcare in general. You cannot release a product just like that, right? It goes through clinical trials. You need to do regulatory submissions. You need to ensure your product is safe to use. For some cases, you may need to do animal studies. You may need to do multi-centric trial. All of these are very, very expensive. So my first thing, at least what added value to me, is you need to have a team of advisors, doctors who really believe in your solution, and they should actually talk on your product to the stakeholders directly, rather than us speaking directly if we are not from the medical community. So I think that is one of the major learnings that I got during my startup phase. Now, if you look at US medtech startups, they give a part of their equity to a clinical medical officer, and they would be called as a chief medical officer in the company. So I think that is a key learning which I think Indian startups also need to have. You need to have somebody who's a medical doctor in your particular problem statement, who truly values your solution, and they should be pitching on the company's behalf along with you. And that's the only way I feel you can convince stakeholders or anybody. And of course, data is where everything lies in. So as you progress through, please try to publish as much as possible, so that a published article speaks more than a founder speaking about it. So these are some of the techniques I thought who adds value. And third, also technologically, let's say I'm a founder, I don't have an optics background, but I had an expert who knows optics, and having them on the board of advisors, right, also adds value when you pitch the product or your solution to the stakeholder. So lastly, it's a never ending journey. You would discover as and when you go through the
True.
startup journey, but these are some of the things that worked for me. And I think, that True.
That's a great learning. Every founder would relate to actually. So even as a founder myself, I do realize that we need to have some people on behalf of us to convince or explain about our technology. So,
Correct.
what was some of your pivots or let's say learnings or failures while building the core technology? What are the failures actually teach you as a founder?
Oh, yeah. If I have to talk about failures, I think I have to write 2 volumes of books. Uh, and at each phase, there are so many things that go wrong or does not happen the way you want to happen. So I would say that when we started with the technology, initial phases, I used to spend a lot of time in Pune because they had a venture center Pune, who are one of the incubation centers. They have a very well established BSL2 facility. I just want to give some examples from my journey. So why do you need a BSL2 facility? Is because the bacteria I'm dealing with are infectious in nature, and you need a facility where you can culture and grow them. And Dr. Ayush was based in Pune. So I used to go collect samples from the D.Y. Patel Hospital. I used to take it to Venture Center Pune to process, and then there was NCL labs next door to Venture Center where I have to characterize the fluorescence properties of these bacteria. And all 1 year, my bacteria was dead by the time I took it to NCL Pune. And I'm getting no signals. And I've been boldly telling the world that, autofluorescence is a very new technique and bacteria show that, but then I'm not seeing anything in my results. And that was a great failure for me. I thought my technology does not work. Whatever I've presented so far has been, not established. There were very few research articles into autofluorescence. But then, your advisors tell you, have you thought through why has it failed, instead of blindly, accepting that your technology or your initial proposition is wrong. So then it made me understand, the bacteria has not been alive when I've been taking it from this place A to place B, and maybe I should look at a different way of culturing it and doing it, right? So that is one of the thing, one of the key learning, that unless you are really sure the experiments you did is wrong, don't ridicule yourself or what you have come up with, right? So that was one of a key learning. And then let's say moving ahead, your multi-centric trial, it's always a challenge, right? Patient recruitment, you need to ensure that you have to pay your salaries, you have a fixed budget, you have only fixed window to finish the clinical trials, but your patient recruitment is not happening. So then again, that was a big issue if it's moving very slowly and you're bleeding a lot of money month on month. So then, I pivoted. I understood that I need to hire somebody, sit in the hospital, ensure the patient recruitment happens. So you may feel that it's an additional charge to hire a clinical research coordinator from your company side, of course, along with the third party,
Hospital, yeah.
CRO that you would have hired. But still, having this additional thing would actually move your project faster and your recruitments than, looking at it as a cost angle and not having somebody in place. So that was another. Now the third biggest failure post that was, you don't do regulatory clearances, because back then India didn't have a CDSCO approval for devices. It was all, you need to get a no objection certificate. But then what I realized was I had a lot of companies looking at our product because our technology was very unique. They were evaluating it from, other geographies. And what it did not go through, frankly, because we did not have those ISO 13485s, the regulatory certifications in place. Again, it costs you a lot because there is somebody who believes in the technology, wants to look at you for either collaboration, distribution, licensing. It could be even acquisition, right? Which is very important for startups. But then they couldn't do it because we did not have a strong QMS, a quality management system, and regulatory norms in India. So again, that was a challenge. We did lose some opportunities. It was really hurtful, right, when it did not happen. But then we did not let it go. We've ensured that we made use of the COVID period to get all the licenses, the QMS structure in place before we manufacture. Then we understood, okay, if India didn't have a CDSC approval, what is the next best option? Should we look for US FDA? How do we prepare ourselves for those, right? So again, that was one of the key learning post a failure. And then now you see, 10 years into the company, you would start realizing that all your including a simple board meeting, your company secretarial work, your company incorporation details, your GST filings, your TDS filings, all of that becomes very important. So it's a never ending journey of obstacles, but I think we will figure it out as and when we do. And now I'm sure, Kalai, there are so many startups out there who have done it. So it would always be better to have a mentor company who can help you understand early on what could be potential failures and course correct, and then make your own mistakes and then overcome it. Yeah, so that's how I go through it.
So yeah, while you were explaining about the pivots and failures, there is one saying that I get in my mind. Those
Sure.
who start early or those who fail make the win or the winning very concrete. I really
Correct.
see in your startup actually. So as of now, I do have a similar thoughts also. Like having a mentor for us to have it in every space is not affordable for many of the startups. So, whatever you have gone through, you have made a concrete platform. I mean, through the failures or the learnings that we get. So, whenever there is the opportunity to have mentor, people can hire. If not, start early and start doing get the failures to learn much better. I would say there is nothing much to lose when you start a startup. You get to have that in your mindset, right? That back coming forth every time that makes us very strong in each of the sessions. Yeah. So
Absolutely, well said. Yeah.
this medtech time is very long and painful journey. So how you stay motivated during these kind of phases, like the pivoting phases?
Sure. So I think one small advice to founders that has helped me, whenever you feel down and you feel lost, right, go meet a number of people and present your idea. One, you would get further bogged down because they'll say your idea is horrible or your device is bad. But you would definitely feel some well wishers who truly believe in what you're doing. And for me, when I see that existing locations where I've placed the device, when I see the metrics, how many patients got benefited, and every doctor will have some story to tell, right? Hey, I used your device. This particular patient had, I didn't even know he had an ortho issue, for example, and your device picked up bone infection. I mean, I have a similar case. You would truly light up. Okay, I've been worrying about all these different problems, but here is one user who's telling that I actually added value to a patient's life. In a similar way, I had another doctor who told me, we stopped giving antibiotics unnecessarily, which is the core motive behind our company. So when you hear at least 2 to 3 stakeholders who actually appreciate for why you started a particular problem, why you're making a device, right? You keeps you motivated whenever you're down, and then you will start looking at, okay, what's next and how do I address it. um, I mean, so my only thing
Yeah.
is go meet a lot of stakeholders or customers, get brutal feedback from them, and I'm sure there will be some positive feedback. Try to build on it is what keeps me motivated.
That's fantastic idea, really. I do want to implement from now on these
Sure.
things. Yeah. So I know you are not only building in India but also thinking globally. So what was harder in the initial days, or how you are taking it into the global market
Yeah.
when comparing the Indian things?
Sure. So I want to be a little brutal here, okay? This is not to put anybody down in India, but somehow we don't take quality very seriously in India, okay? At least most of the, you may have vendors as part of your Make in India initiative. You need to hire a lot of, or rather have a lot of vendors supply you products, right? Raw materials to support your product development from India. And what I've realized is many of these vendors are not exposed to how much of quality or how much of rigor they need to do before they build the raw material. So this was one great learning when we started, applying for US FDA and having all those regulatory things in place. And you will be surprised that, some other country vendors, it's not to put anybody down, but it's a mindset, right? Where we do things very fast, but we don't do things very, in depth properly. So that was a great learning for me, right? Where we cannot take shortcuts when you're building a medical device, anything in healthcare. And choosing your channel partners or your raw material vendors is very, very important. So that was one of the key learning. It is a very long, the timeline is pretty long when you have to apply for, other country regulations. But choosing your raw material vendor properly is very important for your long term success if you want to enter outside India. And why not? You should incorporate the same thing for your own Indian community as well, right? It should not be that, oh,
True.
I have an FDA approved product. This version is for that. There's another lower version which is for the Indian community. It should not be like that. So I think quality is something that we should imbibe early on, and not take shortcuts. That would actually help you save money but also build product on a global landscape. That's one of the key learning, uh, I realized when I started applying for USFDA.
So I just want slightly shift towards personal side because the journey is not just the personal. So what was your lowest moment as a founder? When did you ever feel quitting, or if it's so, what made you to continue to go on?
Okay, that's. I don't want to reject anybody who is into healthcare or medical devices, but yeah, there have been so many low points, moments where you just want to quit. But after a point, um, in fact, I have these moments 6 months back as well, right? Where you are at your lowest, and you would have seen so many things not working out, so many things not happening. Especially, Indian investors don't uh, understand the quantum of money needed to bring a product from research to market, right? That is a very painful situation to be in, and you still need to make it work, be more frugal. So that's always been there. Okay, but I think Indians are very resilient from what, our community is very resilient. So no matter what, I always see that we will find a way to move it forward. Sometimes I will take one step at a time. The worst is what, it's not like you have failed as a entrepreneur, but you have at least got it through this level, right? Which no one else has done, or no one else has taken a risk as you are taking, right? Now, that is something that experience is something that no one will get. So, ultimately, the journey is what matters. Uh, you have done something that nobody would have done in this particular
Very
age.
true.
And, inherently, we should also always be proud of that, right? I mean, that's what keeps me going. It's okay even if I fail, but at least I started and I took it till the stage. And I've taken a risk and I've done something that I'm passionate about, right? I think that's the only thing that keeps me going to whenever I feel like quitting.
You should go actually, because you are silently inspiring many of the people like myself. Like so many people are looking forward. And so I just want to ask another thing. Like, who are the people that stood by you during these painful times, the toughest places?
Oh, yeah, I have a long list of mentor network. So I would first thank or rather, one big support system is my husband. He is an optoelectronics expert. So he is very strong. So whenever I feel down, he always lifts me up. Been a very strong support system, I would say. And then I have a lot of my mentors. I would start with, Venture Center Pune, because they believed in me in the sense when I presented my idea to BIG Big Grant. I didn't have my husband as a mentor or an advisor, or I didn't have my other clinical advisors presenting. It is me presenting as a BTech graduate. And Venture Center Pune, Dr. Premna, Dr. Manisha Premna, they do not look at you as, oh, she's just from BTech background, right? They actually take you very seriously, and you need mentors like that. And I was able to confidently present in a room full of people, Padma Bhushans from ISC Bangalore. You know how the BIG
Yeah,
community
yeah,
is
yeah.
when you present, right? So they were very key. And then I would want to also talk about Dr. Arun Venkatesan. He was part of Will Grow Innovation Network. They are a social impact incubation center. In a very early stage of my company formation, everything, even a simple finance, I would ask him for his help and advice. And it would always be a pleasure talking to him. The way the mindset that he gives you, the rigor in which he makes you accelerate. And then down the line, there were so many people who contributed when it comes to regulatory hurdles, right? I was at least fortunate enough to be connected with Forest Health. They are one of the very, very first companies in India who have sold devices to the USA. They have 35 plus regulatory clearances. Their regulatory team and their CEO is one of my biggest inspiration that I look forward to, right? How they built when there was no BIG grants available, they were able to sustain. And then now, I have other couple of other companies that I look forward to, and the founders who have built, crossed a particular hurdle. Um, uh, so yeah, at the end of the day, you need to have a strong support system personally as well. So at some level, I would appreciate my family for understanding that, and also having a good community of mentors and fellow entrepreneurs like you, right? There's a lot of inspiration I take. Look at them, they're going forward even though there is so many hurdles. For example, I have so many other startup founders, and they're still going forward, right? No matter what. I think that's the inspiration that I keep forward, and I keep always remembering each of them and how much they have helped me during my startup phase.
So, while you are mentioning about the presentation before a BIRAC committee, I want to touch something on both of us relate to. Like as a women founder, in my initial days also, I encountered some similar incidents presenting before a high capacity group, being a very small stage or being a startup founder in the initial days. How did it feel? Whether you feel underestimated or people had made any comments on that stages, whether have you took it personally, so is there any other incidents that you remember that you have overcome in the later stages?
You are underestimated all the time. You don't even now you're underestimated. I think that is a never-ending realization that people underestimate you all the time. Of course, I've taken it personally. Even now, I take it personally, right? But I think you should look at it, or at least I sometimes look at it as a positive way. If people underestimate you, no matter how much, even a um, smallest thing that you do in the positive direction is actually proving them wrong. So you would work double and triple just to prove them wrong, right? And it's actually positive for you. And I have faced so many. So one thing I want to say is when I was nominated by BIRAC for to go to Ignite Fellowship. It happens in UK. And everybody in UK were appreciating my technology and all of that. But I had a fellow entrepreneur who was co-nominated from, India. And he was like, what is this girl doing with a BTech background in front of the entire community? And I was shocked. Like I was literally, crying, going back and, all put down. And then now when I look, 8 years into the company, 10 years into the company, I have a product that is US FDA
Mm.
approved, that's CDSU approved, it's out in the market. But that fellow entrepreneur who commented on me, I don't think his product is anywhere ready in the last 10 years. Now, this is not to put them down, okay? But, maybe he motivated me in some way to work harder, take it more seriously. Yeah, and it's always for the good when you look back. You may have temporary moments of being underestimated and taking it personally, but when you look back, you would actually thank such scenarios for pushing you forward.
Very true, very true. So, how do you make some ethical decisions or some values we do hold? And if there is the pressure, whether it's from the funding or the timeline or the growth, how do you tackle and make decisions with your core values?
Oh my God, I think Kalai, you have prepared excellently for this. Oh, yeah, it is a very good question, I would say, because, I faced the ethical dilemma many, many times, right? To proceed or not to proceed. To a lot of things, okay? Like some things I cannot even disclose, right? It's a very, very tough situation to be in. Um, I think I always take an external view. It's very difficult to not put yourself in it and look at it from a third person angle. It's a very tough thing to do. And I look at it from two viewpoints. One, what is good for the company, and two, what is good for the patients. So ultimately, I don't come into the picture. I, as a person, don't come into that dilemma. It should only benefit, it should not go wrong for the company and for the patient's health, right? Yeah, that's the only thing viewpoint I take. Yeah, and if there are some things that personally hate me because of this dilemma, and ethically it is wrong on both the sides, I don't go forward with it. If it doesn't, and it is something that only personally hurts me, then I take 2 to 3 days off, or rather I don't take myself to recharge. And then when you come back, you look at it from a third person view, and then you're able to, I feel at least my decisions are right to some extent.
That really works. Giving some time and then getting off from this place really works and gives us clarity. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, as we come now to the end of this conversation, and I want to ask one final question. So, as a women founder, what you want to tell such early founders, especially to women or who are entering into the medtech space, what advice you want to give them?
Sure. So women inherently are capable of doing multiple tasks with clarity at the same time. And that is I would say that is your power. Make use of it. People may call you emotional, people may call you a lot of things, right? But one thing you need to be, what I have seen is we are able to parallelly process a lot of things, and we take risk in a much calculated way. And that is our biggest strength, I feel. So only thing I would say is don't put yourself down just because you are from a particular gender. But at the same time, um, take help from anybody you feel who can add value to you. You may not be an expert in anything, but have those support systems early on, be it an advisor, be it a mentor, and don't feel bad to ask anybody for help. I think that is one of the biggest thing when you start. And you would be surprised that when you ask for help, right? uh, you can actually move faster. So I think that's the only thing. And always be connected to an incubation system if you're a healthcare startup, because you may not know everything. And it's always better to have an incubation support system in place for a long-term growth of your company. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Geethanjali. This was not just insightful, but was really deeply real, and it connected me very well because many of the things I look forward for inspirations. Like I used to see your LinkedIn pages and how you have been growing your company, and what are the posts that you used to. I always look whenever I feel very low. I personally look at you for many of my decisions to make in the next step. So, as a fellow founder, I relate much of what you have said. And to everyone listening, if you are building or thinking of building something in the medtech space, I hope this conversation gave you some clarity and vision and courage to start off. So, thank you for tuning in. Until next, best wishes from myself and Ms. Geethanjali and MedDwiseCircle. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Geethanjali, for joining.
Thank you.